Yo, what's up? Wonderful Earthlings. Thank you very much for clicking this video, man. You are a wonderful soul indeed. Respect and much love to yourself. You see, in this life, there are only two tragedies. One is getting what you want in life, and the other is not getting it. It's why here we want and aim to promote love, peace, forgiveness, and unity among humans across the whole world. And with your help, wonderful soul, of watching these videos critically and reacting together with me every bit till the end through the comment section, we can spread lots of love across the whole world. Straight out of Africa with lots of good vibes. Kindly hit the like button. Tell us where you're watching from, grab some snacks, and let's dive in. Good vibes till the end. Good vibes, man.
The only person on the planet that didn't know that you can just pick a piece of fruit off of a tree and
I have heard people say this before in the US, and it was confusing at first, but as time goes on, I'm starting to kind of understand why people don't realize this. One of my jobs, I work as a project manager for a construction company, and a lot of the workers come from south of the border for the season. Places like Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador. They work here for the season, then they go back home. They come from different cultures. One day, I'm rolling up to a pretty affluent neighborhood where we have a job going on, and as I go up to the job site, there are some workers that are eating fruit off of an apple tree. Well, they're eating apples off of an apple tree. The homeowner's wife comes out and she goes, "Hey, I don't want to alarm you or anything, but some of these guys are eating apples off of that tree right there." Back, and I realize, ellos están comiendo manzanas. So I say, "I'm so sorry, they should have asked permission, I apologize." She says, "No, I'm not worried about that. I just don't want them to get sick because those are not edible apples." I look at her, I look at the manzanas, and I say, "What do you mean? Like they're not ripe? Or like, what do you mean they're not edible apples?" And she says to me, "Those apples come from a tree. You can't eat apples that are grown on a tree." I believe that in the United States, we are so far separated from our food that we don't think about the fact that most of our food is grown in the ground and comes from a warm, living animal. Yeah, cold cuts and stuff like that, that's not normal. That's just what you see in a store. That's not where it actually comes from. So yeah, you're definitely not the first person I've heard not realize that you can just eat fruit off of a tree.
Oh my god. Huh.
Watch what happened when I put this super strong magnet under the solar death ray. To demonstrate the strength of the magnet, I attached it to this weight plate and lifted it into midair. And when I allowed two of these magnets to collide, they hit each other with such force that they fragmented into pieces. These magnets are so strong that when they hit each other, they are going really fast, but they retain all their magnetic attraction. When I gathered the pieces, they clumped back together in a cohesive mass. The fragments were strongly attracted to each other, and you can see this piece fly right back. So I got this cluster of magnetic fragments and put it on the hot spot under the solar death ray. I aimed the funneled sunlight right at it, and you gotta check out what happened here. The concentrated sunlight created so much heat that the fragments lost their magnetic attraction to each other. When I disengaged the solar death ray, the pieces of magnet had no attraction for this iron screwdriver. After the magnetic fragments had cooled down, they were still totally demagnetized. Awesome.
Huh. Did you know that is possible? I didn't.
This video of a bear chasing a man in France is going viral, and it's leaving a lot of people with mixed emotions. So it starts off with this dude being chased by a bear, and when he runs across the street, it kind of looks like this bus hits the bear. So people are pissed off with this bus driver because you could see right here, he kind of just drives off. And then it's unclear what happened to the bear. The cameraman's looking around for him, but if we cut forward into the video, we can see that the bear has re-emerged, and it looks like he might be a little bit injured. And this guy that you're seeing here is actually the first guy the bear was chasing. He came back to the bear's rescue. People thought this was a second dude, but it's not. It's the first dude. But what makes this video great is this bear is just shaking off getting hit by a bus and getting his energy back so that he can continue chasing this dude. These two are hilarious. Honestly, I think they need a TV show. We never find out if the bear catches the man, but we can assume that he got away safely, and eventually the bear grew tired of chasing him.
Oh, maybe they were just playing or spreading good vibes.
Alright family, so let's talk briefly about what's going on in this video I shared from my Instagram. Creating tinsel rings. Why do I create tinsel rings? Why is it so beneficial metaphysically, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to work with this specific metal? Why is that? Why are we hearing so many reflections talking about copper this year, especially in the realm of electroculture, utilizing copper with an organic material like a piece of wood, wrapping the copper around it clockwise, and then utilizing it as an atmospheric antenna that is accumulating, harmonizing, and resonating that higher etheric energy, chi, prana, mana, subtle energy, radiant energy, whatever you want to call it, right? The scalar energy. Nikola Tesla called it radiant energy. Now, when you take copper, not a lot of reflections know this, but most metals have a crystalline lattice. Now, if you condense that crystalline lattice through mechanical pressure, like when you create a piece of wire, it creates a one-way directional piezoelectric effect. Now, if you twist that wire clockwise, and then connect both ends, creating a closed loop, as John Archibald Wheeler shared in the mid-1900s, you are literally creating a paramagnetic value that far exceeds what has been recorded to this day. So this is a living light energy from these.
Okay. That's good vibes.
So listen, that Chinese astrology shit is low-key scary. That shit is fucking real. Search up your Chinese astrology sign, right? So for me, I'm the tiger, right? Then search up where your favorite city to be in was founded. And I did this shit, right? I searched up where the favorite city I like to be in all the time was founded. And it's the same sign as my astrology sign. So that shit's fucking real. And there's all this other shit that like I found out that's like I'm connected to and like why I'm aligned to that shit. That shit's low-key scary. They talk about how like if you're dealing with a sign like an enemy sign or some shit like that, you're dealing with like enemy signs and shit, how it's just not gonna work out. And like you search up the people where it didn't work out and it's the sign that they are like when they were born, and it's the same sign. So that shit's low-key real. Like it's low-key real. Obviously you want to take it with a grain of salt. You don't want to also put all your mind into that shit. I feel like people who overly do it, like they kind of miss it. They don't really use it. They kind of just like give their whole entire life to it, which is not gonna be me. Deadass, that shit is low-key, it's accurate. Like you can like use that shit to navigate your life. Like Chinese astrology is like really, really good to do because you could use it to navigate your life when it comes to money, relationships, and shit like that. So definitely I recommend mans to use that shit. Use that shit because that shit's good for you. It's good for you. But don't overly use it because like we're not trying to get crazy.
Oh, do you know anything about Chinese astrology? Myself, I don't.
The invasion and the draconian agenda. So that is. This continued literally through the 50s, through the 60s. The Dracs remained in control till 1972. In 1972, it was getting to the point where all the Anunnaki were freaking out because the Dracs just had such a hold on things, and they were determined that even if they had to help each other, you know, the groups of Anunnaki that don't like each other, they decided, well, if we have to stick together for a little while just to get rid of these guys, we'll do it. What they wanted to do was they wanted to open that wormhole and close the other one. That was what they were hoping to be able to do. Open the Phoenix, close the Falcon, now we've got it, that kind of thing. You know, meanwhile, we're all like, you know, by this time, most of us were on planet and, you know, getting raised and watching things like Leave It to Beaver on television and, being fed this illusion of what life is really about. Well, meanwhile, this chaos is taking place underneath the government. And at the same time, we're being taught in America, we're being taught the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and we're raised with this wonderful bubble of emotion about being American. You know a song that still just makes me want to cry? Or smack a Zeta? Is the one that goes, I'm proud to be an American, 'cause at least I know I'm free. Well, at least we thought we were free. You know, there's something horribly sad about that. And I look at the people, a lot of people that get upset with the work that I bring out are people that have been in the military. How can you say that about our government? Wait a minute. Listen to what I'm saying. Most of you guys are good guys that give your life for that American Constitution. I know that. I didn't say you were doing this. You know what I mean? Because there's that reaction. America meant something conceptually at least, we were led to believe in America that this was the land of the free and the home of the brave, and we stood for freedom and justice and rightness. And what is so sad is that's what the people stand for, but it hasn't been the reality of what's been taking place in the governments. So meanwhile, we go and worry about who we're going to vote for next November, and we worry about, watch those returns and see who's going to be the politician up there, when it hasn't mattered since the 1930s. Because you're going to have one of two choices. You're going to have Drac, or you're going to have Anunnaki candidate. Pick one. What does it matter? They both want to take over the place. And the people who are the candidates don't know that. Okay, the people who end up playing the puppets to this, they don't know what they're playing the puppet to. They're doing their roles, we're all doing our roles, and meanwhile, there's these little guys directing things behind the scenes. This is what we've been living. This was like devastating to me when I started to see all the pieces. And what really hit home was when how they explained that since the 30s and progressively through the 40s, 50s, and in the 60s it even increased, where the Draconian races, the Zeta races on behalf of the Draconians, were progressively playing with technologies to take out large numbers of humans without being detected as the ones who did that. They created ethnic viruses that were to go after just specific types of people, races that had certain gene codes where they wouldn't affect others, but they would affect those. Indigos were on the list. Humans were on the list. Illuminati, only competing types, were on the list. All right. They were using targeted sonics to create earthquakes, to create natural disasters, to see how far they could go with it. This was all being done covertly. And some of the military people that found out that things like this were actually going on and tried to do something about it vanished conveniently. They would be taken out. They would literally disappear. All of a sudden they got assigned someplace in active duty and got killed. Can't find the body. Or got blown up in a helicopter. No body left. Just a little bit of ashes or some bones. There have been things going on beneath the surface of this that have been horrendous. They've been really horrible. And we've been living a little American dream bubble as if everything's okay. That's why I think for, at least like in Europe and things like that, people from Europe, they've seen a lot. Their governments have been around for a very, very long time. And the people, I've just, like with Michael and the people I've met by being over in England with Michael, they're just a lot more aware in certain ways. They're not as easy to put one over on. They don't have any more left of that little bit of innocence that somebody says, oh, well, it's this way. They're going to say, okay, is it? All right, I'll listen. What do you have to say? Here, we're going to, okay. And if it's something that sounds good and really plays our heartstrings, and our government says it, there's still it's like a knee-jerk reaction from a lot of America, where because we want to feel that what we're believing in is really true, we will believe it, even when it isn't. And it's like taking a child that still trusts you and misleading that child and letting the child think you're doing something good for it when you're really like leading it off a cliff. That's what's been going on here. So I think this type of material is more, it's harder, I think, probably for American audiences more than anybody else, because we've been spared from any visible sign of fighting for a very long time. We've had nothing to worry about except for like becoming 30-something and having a nice house and maybe becoming a yuppie and being able to have a decent job and, basic stuff, feeding your kids. What we feed our kids here in a day would support families over in impoverished countries for a month. We've had this ability to become very trivial because there was nothing of huge importance that threatened us in any way, that we had to do anything but kind of like indulge ourselves, which was good. It gave us a time to kind of explore and stretch and learn things. But when you find that kid that was allowed to play, and they think they're in a safe playground, and all of a sudden they find out that there's a bunch of terrorists with guns pointing at that playground, who's going to be more prepared to deal with it? The people who have been watching buildings blow up because of the IRA, because of other terrorist groups. England has been a target for IRA activity for a long time. So the people get seasoned and they learn to not crash when it comes to the emotional chaos of trauma. Right now, we're facing a situation, we just got our first dose, and I think we went from like grade 5 to probably a sophomore in college, all in one leap emotionally, as far as dealing with how we're going to deal with trauma. We're doing really good, actually. But this kind of stuff, when we start to realize that it can make you very angry, because at least in other places, like in China, people know they're not free. At least they know this. They know if they say too much, the government will come make them disappear. They will get put in concentration camps. At least they know the game. It's not better than this. We got to run around thinking we were free. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of like, do you ever see those hamster balls? My daughter has hamsters, and they have these little round balls that you can put the hamster in, and it can go exercise. It never leaves the ball, but it can like run around the whole house and not get lost, right? I keep wondering, is this exercise or torture? The thing seems to like it. We've been like that, in a way. We're running around in our little, hamster ball here.
Right.
Well, yeah, and we think it's all cool and all right. We don't even realize we're in a hamster ball, that we're really not free. So there's been a greater level of deception here. At least the countries who, their people know they're being dominated. They don't like it. But they learn that this is a part of life they're going to deal with. At least it's honest. Here there's a betrayal sense, because we thought we were dealing with honesty. That it was something that was above the board the whole time. So there's a real sense of there's a lot of emotions that when you start to see what's gone on here that can come up in you, and don't be surprised if they do. The first time you hear it, it may be like, yeah, I could probably feel that way. That's very different than when the feeling starts to come up. And it'll come up when you hit trigger events, when something happens again out there that brings up a whole ball of emotion, and you start to get in touch with it. There's a part of all of us that are hurting very, very deeply. It's on the subconscious level right now. It's the part that has felt so betrayed, like our great mommy and daddy government all of a sudden turned out to be child abusers. And we were so abused we didn't even know we were abused. It's at this point that we move into what became a fiasco from the 70s all the way up through to where we are now. It became an absolute fiasco between competing groups. The Draconians were in power, and the Anunnaki were really upset about this, so people who didn't like each other were starting to make deals with each other, which means the Illuminati, the human element here, they're the ones that look like humans, were getting dragged all over the place. There were factions here, and they'd be working against that faction over there. So there was an erosion that was starting to happen by the 70s in the Draconian control. We had, Big Brother Drac was what we had for a long time through the 40s and the 50s, 30s, 40s, and 50s.
No, Dika, that is true.
From Adam to Abraham, you've got 2,000 years. Abraham to Jesus, you have 2,000 years. Jesus to us, you've got about 2,000 years. That's 6,000 years. 6,000 years that Satan has been ruling this earth since Adam. Now, the Bible talks in Revelation in the end about a 1,000-year millennial reign, a kingdom that's going to happen on the earth where Christ rules on the earth. Okay, you understand that he's waiting for the people to say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. There's a fullness of this time of the Gentiles when the gospel is going to preach to all the earth, and then the end's going to come. But isn't it crazy that this has been going on for 6,000 years? Remember the pattern: 6 days, a day of rest; 6 years, a year of rest; 6,000 years. Isn't it perfectly the time set up for the 1,000-year rest where Christ reigns on the earth and restores things? Okay, whenever we talk about end times, we have to be very careful because there's different ways that people interpret how things are going to happen at the end. So I'll be first to admit, look, I am sharing one possibility. Now, I think I'm right, but it's one possibility. And I could be off on this, but my point is we have to at least admit it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that a nation could be scattered for 1,800 years and then suddenly come back. And it just so happens to be the one nation that God made a covenant with. And then talk about the language. I mean, you gotta understand, no one spoke Hebrew for 1,800 years. It was a dead language, and now suddenly it's the national language. Who does that? Who revives an 1,800-year-old language and brings it back to where everyone's speaking in Hebrew out there now? It's amazing. It's unique. We don't see anything like this in all of human history. And there's actually a passage in the New Testament, Romans chapter 11, and it gives us insight into why things have been happening like this in the country and why the current events are happening today. If you look at verses 28 and 29, he says this: As regards the gospel, they are enemies for your sake. But as regards election, they are beloved for the sake of their forefathers. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. God is saying, I get it. They rejected my son. They reject the good news. And so in regards to the gospel, they're enemies for your sake. But he says, as regards to election, they're still beloved because of the forefathers. Why? Because the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. So even as they reject the gospel, God says, I made a covenant with Abraham. And he explains what's happening, even what's happening up until this day. If you look at verses 25 and 26, he goes, lest you be wise in your own sight, I do not want you to be unaware of this mystery, brothers. A partial hardening has come upon Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And in this way, all Israel will be saved. He says, I want to tell you a mystery because you never would have figured this out. But God actually specifically has hardened them. This hardening has come upon them, but it's a partial hardening until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. So they're going to reject him, but it's for a period of time until all the Gentiles, the non-Jews, start to follow. And this goes exactly with what Jesus said when he rose from the grave in Acts chapter 1 and verse 7. The disciples say, okay, you just came back from the dead. Is this the time you're finally going to restore the kingdom of Israel? And Jesus goes, it's not for you to know. He goes, but you're going to receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you're going to be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth, because that's what I told Abraham. I said you'd be a blessing to the whole world. This is what Revelation 7 talks about in verse 9, how there's going to be people from every nation on the earth worshiping God. This was the promise, and God says there's going to be a partial hardening of Israel until that time. And so that's why up until 100 years ago, the Jews have always rejected Jesus. I mean, some of them hate the name of, many of them hate the name of Jesus. They say up to 100 years ago, there were less than 1,000 Jews on the earth who believed in Jesus. But it's interesting because right now, do you realize this is the first time in history that there is a Bible-believing Christian in every nation? And they say that by 2033, the Bible will be translated into every language for the first time in human history. Coinciding with that, it's interesting that right now they're estimating over 200,000 Jews who now believe in Jesus. It doesn't seem to be coincidence. The thing you got to understand is that we're a part of the story. And if you read Romans 11, starting verse 17, it explains how, yes, some of the natural branches were cut off, but then we were grafted in like these wild olive shoots. We're grafted into the tree. So the history of Israel is my history. I'm a part of this now. And he explains even the process. This is what is really fascinating. If you look at 2 Peter chapter 3, starting in verse 8, he says, do not overlook this one fact, beloved, that with the Lord, one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. He says the length of time, these 1,000-year gaps, these 2,000 years, it's not God being slow, it's God being patient, and he's actually waiting for repentance. So there's a sense in which, why did God wait this long? Is because he wanted me to be a part of this story. I mean, you can meditate on this for hours and worship God because of it. And so because he still has not yet returned, there's another generation that is here, and I see it as my responsibility to let them know, look, you can be a part of this story also.
Oh my God, look at this. What is this now? Oh my God. It's like there is some alligator and what is that is below it? Looks like some man-made fish. Or it is the other fish that looks like that. Scientists find alien proof. Let's see alien proof. You see alien proof, we have been seeing videos here and there, and people say those are aliens. And they can't seem to understand how they know they are aliens. You see, like now this one, you see, you just find some stone somewhere and it can do crazy stuff and you say it's alien. Do you mean that this earth has nothing that can do incredible stuff? All things that do amazing stuff that you don't understand? We see they are from aliens or space. You see, and they wonder. You see already that maybe you haven't understood the whole earth. You see, maybe if we unite as one and love one another, we can find that there are things here on earth that now people from space now can think this was are the aliens. You see, because I believe this world is full of great stuff. You see, and if we unite and be good to one another, we can find them. You see, good vibes now to everybody. Oh, look at this. Oh man, some good vibes elephant here. Found some snack. Oh, and they're trying to break the snacks, but it's like the snacks is not breaking. You see, and is it time for them to implement their creativity? These animals are lovely, man. They are full of good vibes. You see, good people of earth. Send love to animals, to people, to everything. Just be loving and forgiving. That way we can unite, you see, and be peaceful the whole earth. You see? That way we can be good vibes people from everywhere. Make yourself, man. Hit the like button there. Leave some comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us even if you have ever seen an elephant. You see, I realize that some people see stuff here on videos and they have never seen them. You see, in your country, do elephants exist? You see, from this side there are a lot of them, and even have a friend that have one. Maybe soon we'll even do a video with it if God helps us and that friends allows us. You see, but he usually moves with this elephant to different places. Now it's very hard to find him and tell him we need to do this stuff here for some time, you see, because he's always out there searching for food for his animals. Now, and it's good vibes, you see, animals and the people and they interact. It's good vibes. You see, this animal at the end it figured it out how to break that stuff. That is nice. That is good vibes, man. It's incredible. Oh, big up to all those guys that have been leaving some comments there in the comment section. Respect to yourself, man. You are all loved and respected. May the universe reward you and God bless you, man. Hit also the super thanks if you can. Buy some merchandise there, some t-shirts, and even some caps there. Good vibes. Even maybe when God helps us, we'll even bring fruits from this side of the world. You see, like this fruit, you might be wondering what it is called and looks big and creepy. This is a very sweet fruit. You see, it is so sweet that it even you feel the sweetness on what do you call these things that are here? I don't know, but you feel the sweetness is excess. You see, I wish I could pass it to you, but maybe soon if you grab some merchandise there, God will help us to be even linking up with the fruits. You see, and it will be good vibes. Like some guys here from some place, they made some zero refraction window. Oh my God. I think what does that mean? Is that a clear window that you can see through, like it's clear?
Okay, this is a bit creepy. Let me know what you guys think. So, why does NASA have all these old school cars? My thoughts are, they're cars without computers in them. All from the 1970s. They're preparing for an EMP blast. What's odd is they're not just old school NASA cars. Here's a news car. They have a whole fleet from NASA vehicles, semi-trucks, ambulances. Perhaps this is where that $50 million a day budget is going. Because we all know it's certainly not getting us into space. Collectors of CGI videos and apparently old school cars. Let me know what you think they're using them for. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Or maybe they are building some museum for the future. What do you think, good people of Earth? Leave your comments.
Meet the world's largest wolf, raised by a man to be as gentle as a husky. When first brought home, the wolf named Kate still had a wild side. Kate, with nostrils as big as a double-barreled shotgun, could be intimidating. But with a flip of the hand, the owner could instantly tame him. Despite Kate's efforts to maintain a tough exterior, his domesticated nature would soon surface, playfully nibbling the owner's arm and then affectionately licking his face. One day, Kate was visibly upset with a mate the owner had chosen for him. Displeased, he even chased after the female dog. The owner thought a husky sharing wolf ancestry would be a perfect match for Kate. To his surprise, Kate became instantly smitten, wagging his tail and acting playfully submissive. Despite his efforts, the husky initially seemed uninterested, possibly put off by Kate's dark fur. However, in an unexpected twist, they got along the next day. 2 months later, the husky gave birth to 2 adorable puppies, charming everyone with their cuteness. 4 months passed, and the puppies grew noticeably, appearing a bit goofy, raising some concerns about their intelligence. After a year, Kate's offspring with the husky had fully grown. The owner sensed something was off, but couldn't quite put his finger on it. As the pack leader, the owner would dine with Kate, who, as a Canadian black wolf, had a much larger appetite than average wolves, consuming 10 eggs a day. Kate was still a bit possessive of his food, and it was wise not to approach him during mealtime to avoid any unintended consequences.
Oh my god, huh? That is interesting. Good vibes, man. Oh, huh? You see, these animals are good vibes.